Why do we start our classes by jumping around like crazy maniacs singing Cooked on a Feeling? Change my state? Okay. Chris? Group rapport? Oh, you guys are thinking very Machiavellian. I like that. Ashwin? Increased testosterone? Depends, I guess that depends on what you're feeling. Mandar? For sure. All of those are true. Wrong. It's actually much more basic than that. But it's something that I want you all to put at the top of every single notepad or page that you write today. Because no matter what we're talking about, no matter how complicated or comprehensive or compound the techniques seem to be, it's going to come down to a few basic principles. And if you master those principles, you've mastered NLP. It's really that simple. The first one, everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. Feelings, nothing more than, sorry, right? It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want less of. That's it. That's it. That's all you need to know. See you later. Right? Now, if you're coming from classical NLP or anything that's derived from NLP, you're going to hear people talk about VAKOG, V-A-K-O-G. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. And the NLP zealots of the world will say, oh, I'm a visual. I see things clearly. Right? Then you'll have the auditories. I am an auditory, but soft the moon like a testicle hangs low in the sky. Right? Some of you will get that later. Anyway, right? And I listen to the things, right? Then you have the kinesthetics. Yup. Even their posture changes. You see a visual, they're always up here. Auditories, they lead with their head. Kinesthetics, they lead with the lower dantian. Okay? So are all these things true? True enough to be true. And when we say that, what it means is it's true enough that it works. It's true enough that it's useful. Not always 100% laboratory proven true. And by the way, laboratory science doesn't mean shit because there are certain things you can't prove in a lab. Right? But most of what you're going to be learning, if not all of it, is extremely evidence-based. There's no fluff. There's no theory in the theoretical portion of our training. It's all been proven over and over again in multiple contexts. But everything, regardless of where you're coming from, is going to distill down to this. Feelings reign supreme in the VAK hierarchy. Because no matter whether you're a visual, whether you have what we call a visual lead, which means I look at things and then all the other cortexes of my brain light up. Or I'm a primary, which means I primarily relate to the world through visuals. There is not a single thing that you do or feel until you hit the K. You have what we call an internal kinesthetic, or what we call KI, and then you have what we call an external kinesthetic, a behavior. Internal state, external behavior. Internal state, external behavior. The only difference is how you get there. But if all of these processes end in one of these, why not start there? Why just skip all the bullshit, go right to the kinesthetics? And that's why we begin every class with hooked on a feeling. All those other things you told me are true. But everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. Now, to get all NLP-ish on you, this becomes what we call a meta program. Which means it doesn't matter what the context is. Right? If I'm going to buy plumbing supplies, I'm going to move towards the things that make me feel good. When I see the price, I'm going to move away because it makes me feel bad, right? If I'm going to see the doctor, I have fear, I have insecurity, the doctor tells me everything's going to be all right. I like my doctor. He gives me the bill. I move away from my doctor, right? Towards and away from, right? Dating, right? I see a hot chick, hot guy, want to move towards him. I see his girlfriend or boyfriend who's bigger than me, I move away, right? Towards and away. It's meta, context independent. You understand that? You're also going to learn about values. Values are not context independent, which means values change as context changes. Sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. Values change as context changes. If I'm going to go buy plumbing supplies, I'm going to have a different set of rules to get my needs met than if I'm going to go to the doctor, right? In both cases, my value may be security or safety. But how I go judging a doctor's product versus a plumbing supplier's product could be radically different. We call those criteria. The rules by which we know are getting our values are met. Does that make sense? The elicitation of values generates a polarity. Towards or away from. Starting to gel a little bit? What you're going to see, right with you, what you're going to see as we go through the different skill sets of classical NLP and start merging into behavioral modification, more weaponized approaches, is this constant oscillation between towards and away from. Towards pleasure, away from pain. Towards things we want, away from things we don't want. Everything else is just commentary. It's window dressing, right? It goes right down to our biology. When I see somebody that I like or something I'm interested in, my body does this. When I'm repulsed by something, it does that. Towards and away from. It doesn't change. Except unless you're one of those weird people who pay for pain. And then it's still moving towards. It's just a very weird way of getting it. Now, there is some distinctions that we need to make. And we call those distinctions they're the distinctions of order and sequence. Order and sequence. The technical word for that is called syntax. For those of you who've ever done programming and you type in a command or a sequence of commands, and one of them is just get one comma out of order. And it goes, syntax error, you're a complete loser, right? It's kind of what happens, right? He's a programmer, he knows, right? What does it mean? It means you taught something out of the wrong, you got it in the wrong order. You got it in the wrong order, right? So when you hear classical NLPers or Tony Robbins, if you got any of his old videos where he talks about mental syntax, he's talking about the order and sequence of brain regions that your system accesses to do a specific thing. Does that make sense? Okay. So, quick pop quiz. Everything human beings do is in response to? It's either a feeling they want or a feeling they want. That equates to a meta program known as? And away from, right? Meta programs are context independent. Values and rules are context. Body language responds to the same rules as the mind. Towards, away from. When we see a consistency between the words that come out of somebody's mouth and the behaviors that their body is engaging in, we call that congruency. Their words match their body. If I'm doing lie detection, if I'm doing therapy, I'm looking for all kinds of incongruity. right? If I'm doing any kind of uncovering work, and that could be therapeutic, it could be in sales, it could be even dating, right? I'm looking for when the body language and the words don't match, just as much as I'm looking for when they do match, because I need to know towards and away from. Because without understanding towards and away from, I can't navigate the system. I can't navigate where I'm at to where I want to be or to get my outcome. Does that make sense? Okay, I just gave you 3 days of NLP training. But that's it. If you take all the crap, I shouldn't say crap, all the nomenclature and the data and the theory and the lecture, and you take it all and you look at it from the 50,000, this is what comes up, at least in my world, right? Just testing. No. All right, you had a question, sir. Yes. Come on up. Rimbo, I've told you about that.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
You got to make love to the microphone.
All right. I think you answered my question when you reviewed the feelings. So when you talk about the meta programs, the meta program is, I'm a little confused.
Meta means above or about.
Okay.
So anytime we're talking about going meta, we're taking it to the next level of, think of going up and seeing a bigger picture,
Okay.
or having more control over what's below you, as opposed to chunking down and becoming very, very specific. By the way, we're going to be playing a lot with that later on because we're going to be doing reframe training, like hardcore reframe training in the strength. Yeah, it's going to get nasty in a fun way. Yes?
And I'm completely confused. So, and I'm starting to remember it. So I think in the book you have a list of different meta programs. Is that right? So, okay. So when you talk about moving away from or towards, you said that's not context dependent.
In most cases, no. It's what we call a meta program is anything that, for example, another meta program that we have is, if I were to go to Joe. Joe, tell me about those candies.
Well, these candies are...
Hold on. Oh, you have one right here. Hog. Turn it. You got to hold on. You got to lick it first. Hold on. No, I mean you got to turn it on. I just came from like 10 days of priest training, so my inner demons are coming out. There you go.
Okay, so we've got 4 colors of candies. We've got red.
So 4 colors of candies.
Actually, three colors. You got
3
2
colors
reds,
of candies.
2
Okay.
blues, and then a Snickers. And I have a feeling that the blues are the best tasting ones.
Okay. Tell me about those candies. Not you.
They're chocolate. They're all chocolate. That tastes really good when you eat it, and they bring your oxytocin.
So they're all chocolate. They taste really good when you eat them. And what?
And they bring your oxytocin up.
They bring you oxytocin. They sure do. All right, cool. Your turn.
Anything?
Tell me anything you want. Tell me about those candies.
There are 7 candies.
Several candies.
7.
7. Okay.
I suspect each color has a different things in it as an ingredient.
Uh-huh.
And Snickers is the biggest out of all 7.
Okay, so 3 colors, it's sameness. Well, it's, right? And then he went into each color, that's difference. She says, they're all chocolate. That's sameness. All difference. Same candies. Different sorting mechanism. That's a meta program. That meta program will be operative whether she's buying a house, a car, selecting a mate. It is context independent. You all have them, by the way, right? Seth argued because he sorts by exception, and I wasn't exactly precise with my estimation of Joe, so he had to jump out of his skin. And by the way, people who sort by exception tend to really piss off people who don't. So you need to understand that they're not trying to be difficult. That's just how they sort. And they're really useful if you're an entrepreneur or a dreamer. I'm trying to turn this thing off, but that's what she said. Anyway, so Ramon, I'll put a pin in that. We'll get back. Your next question.
So the meta program is underneath the meta programs comes values.
If we're looking at filters of perception or filters of behavior, we're looking at values, yes.
I'm just completely lost.
Because
I guess maybe another way of asking, what's the purpose of what you're explaining here? I mean, I you said everything humans do is a response to a feeling. I get that. And then underneath that, you have feelings. And understanding that humans either move towards or away.
yes,
Where does value come into? Because I get that. So where
very
does
simple.
value come into that?
Values have three pieces. There's a cause, an effect, and a meaning. Right? So something happens that triggers a feeling. We give that feeling a name.
Okay.
That's a value. And it's a value we either want more of, or if it violates a value, we move away from it.
So if there was a different meta program, then we would still use moving towards or away from. Okay, that answers it. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. So again, one of the things you'll hear, and it's actually a really good place to start, because one of the places where people get the most confused is in this concept of values and beliefs and metaprograms. Metaprograms are not beliefs. They're filters. They're standing orders to the nervous system. Look for this first. Then look for this next. Right? One of the ones that came up a lot, Moss isn't here, so I can't pick on him, but one of the other ones you'll I think is in your manual is cost versus convenience. Right? How many people here will drive an extra 10 miles to save a nickel on a tank of gas? Not so much. No, nobody in this room is about cost. It's about convenience. Give it to me now, David. Right? So that's probably one of the things that kind of joins us. My wife, on the other hand, will drive a half an hour to save that kind of money, a nickel on a gallon of gas. She'll do that because she comes from a different country where she grew up with a lot of scarcity, and there's just a lot of different things, right? Me, I can get it now. If I pay an extra $5, bring it, right? I should own stock in Amazon delivery. I order 2-3 times a day, right? It's just because I'm a 10-minute walk from the grocery store. Fuck it. Right? That's just me, right? If you've ever seen these lines on my face, those of you who came to face reading, I tell you my impatience is my superpower, right? Right? Because of my impatience, I can now heal pain and diseases in a really short amount of time, right? With God's help, of course. He's watching, right? But so there's different programs, and probably one of the best resources I've seen for people with basic metaprograms is a book by the late Tad James called Timeline Therapy and the Basis of Personality. We'll talk quite a bit about time. And I should point out that this is an NLP practitioner class. You'll be certified as a level 1 practitioner in NLPUltra, which I have to make a distinction is not classical NLP by any stretch of the imagination, right? So there's some things that we emphasize here that might not get the same emphasis in other trainings. There are some things that I'll say are completely not useful, and the classicists will want to burn me at the stake and stuff like that. Fuck them, right? If they can do with what they have, what I can do with mine, then we'll go for it. right? I'm just competitive that way. You just need to know that about me. But this is really what if you look at meta programs in the Milton model, and you look at the hierarchy of beliefs and all these other things that they teach us in NLP. How many people here have an actual NLP background? Okay, well, then I shouldn't probably talk about this shit because it doesn't really help you. It all goes down to this. Even in Chase's world, everything he's doing is towards and away from. Everything is going to be this, right? Any other questions about that basic fundamental training? Yes, Moss? Yeah. Nobody turned and looked at Moss. He says, if you have a problem signing a video release, there is the away from. It means get the fuck out. GTFO, right? Or GFTO? GTF? I can't. I'm Lex Dixon. Anyway, where'd my eraser go? Oh, there. Oh, that'll work. We'll see if it works anyway. So we're going to be spending one of the things that we're going to talk a lot about is the different skill sets of NLP. But let's get even more basic. I'm going to talk about the classical definition of NLP versus how I like to define it. It's kind of a sad commentary that the most advanced system of communication on the planet can't accurately describe itself without causing confusion. Right? So what does that mean? It's a good thing I have a whole bunch of these because I keep losing them. So, neuro-linguistic programming. The definition I was taught so many moons ago is the study of the structure of subjective human experience. So what the hell does that mean? We could as easily say it's the study of everything. We're going to break it. We're going to go into again, this definition was created in the 70s, before a lot of the science that actually validates what NLP is doing came out. So let's look at a little bit more comprehensive definition of what we're doing from an NLP perspective. NLP is the study of the structure of subjective human experience. What that means is it's about how we create it, how we manage it, how we change it, and how we communicate it. And communicates one of the major ones that we need to understand, because communication takes place internally and externally. You heard me say earlier, internal state, external behavior. Right? These two are interlinked. One always precedes the other, and they're usually chained together. So the study of NLP is about how we create our subjective experience, how we manage it, how we can change it, and in between here you could also put how we relate to it. And that goes to internal communication. How many people here have ever heard me say, you are not the way you are because of the things that happened to you? You are the way you are because of the way you have done what? Recorded what happened to you and the way you've been relating to those recordings. You're 5 years old, driving down, walking down the street, somebody hits you, runs into you with their skateboard, breaks your arm, right? You're 30 years old. Every time you see a kid with a skateboard, your arm hurts. That kid hit you once. You've been hitting yourself for 25 years. Why? Because of the way you recorded the experience and how you've been relating to it, what your body's been doing every time the external environment matches something that was recorded a certain way. Okay? Stimulus response, right? Pavlovian conditioning. NLP calls that particular phenomena an anchor. You guys know what I mean when I say Pavlovian conditioning? You guys know that Ivan Pavlov was a famous animal torturer. Teasing. Actually, if you can get, there's a really, really good book. I'll have to remember the title of it. It's on Pavlovian conditioning, and it was written in Russia. And it's one of the fundamental foundational books on brainwashing. But what Pavlov would do is he would ring a bell every time he was going to feed his dogs, meat powder or whatever. And after a certain amount, and he noticed the dogs would salivate. And after a certain amount of repetitions, all he had to do was ring the bell. The dogs would salivate. That's an anchor. When you're born, this is how you learn. You take two things that have nothing to do with each other, and your brain smashes them together. It's like a jam sandwich. Take two pieces of bread, something in the middle, and you jam it together. Right? So this is the most primal way that we learn. Cause, effect, anchor. Cause, effect, anchor. Right? Now, if we assign a meaning to that feeling, cause, effect, meaning, we now have a belief. All values are beliefs. You see how it's one piece starts to build? Right? So the fundamental is always going to be feelings. It's always going to be towards or away from. It's always going to be like versus unlike. It's going to be cause-effect. But there's something that happens. So you have, you guys need to take a picture of this or anything? Because I'm just illustrating my thoughts as I go. Is everybody kind of following me on this? Makes it simple, doesn't it? Because there's only a few fundamental questions you need to ask whenever you're interacting with a human being. Are they moving towards or away from? What's their current state? Where do I want them to go? Are they moving towards that or not? And what do I need to do to get them there? Those are the fundamental questions. Now, the more aware you become of how their system is processing that, the more leverage you create. That's it. It's all about leverage. Right? So can I erase this? So once again, for the camera, the classical definition of NLP is the study of the structure of subjective human experience. We want to get something a little bit more comprehensive. It's the specific study of how human beings create that subjective experience, how they manage it, how they change it and relate to it, and how they communicate it outside of their own mind and body. Okay? So there's two ways we get an internal representation or subjective experience. We create it or we receive it, and we recreate it. So if I say the word dog, you all heard dog. What kind of dog was the picture in your head? A what mix? Terrier mix. Kelly, what was your dog?
Miniature golden doodle.
A miniature golden doodle. Nick?
Oh gosh, golden retriever.
Golden retriever. What color was your dog? One word, all the same, all different pictures. Why? Because you had to create the experience from the communication that you receive from the outside world. This is something you need to understand. Your nervous system doesn't work in real time. It's constantly predicting what's going to happen next. That's the neuroscience. We'll play with that. In fact, most of the advanced tactics that we're going to be teaching you hack that phenomena, either linguistically, behaviorally, or on a filter level. Okay? You have a question? Okay. You think? Very good. Very good, very good, very good. Okay, so. So when we start talking about the study of subjective experience, we want to know how are they creating it? How are they managing it? When we talk about management, how many people have not played the frame game? Everybody here's played the frame game? You better have played the frame game. Yes. Nick, did you play the frame game? No. Okay, so everybody close your eyes. Think of something that makes you feel really, 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 pretty good. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want it to be like a 14. Right? I want you to make it so good you can't even smell about it without a big old smile on your face. I want you to notice where in your body you feel that. Do the drills, Nick. Right? Notice where in your body you feel it, point to it. Now, if there were a picture floating in the space around you that represents that amazing feeling, a picture you could reach out and touch, where would you reach out to touch it? Excellent. Keep your hands there. Open your eyes, look around the room. And notice where everybody's hands are or are not. They're all in different places. Why? Because you organize your subjective experience in different filing cabinets. You all have a filing cabinet, but you organize them differently. And that organization, that structure, makes all the difference. It's how you built that experience that determines what your body does, not the content of the experience, right? And that's what's cool about, when we talk about, we say the structure of subjective human experience. Where did I put it? How big was it? Was it in color or black and white? Was it moving or was it still? You see, those qualities, those attributes that we don't think anything of because we're focused on the story rather than how it's represented, those are the things that tell our nervous system how to play that experience for us. So close your eyes again, think back to that picture, reach out and touch it. Just for fun, trace the outline of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Now grab the edges of it and just make it bigger without slugging the person next to you. Notice what happens to the feelings in your body. They get stronger or weaker. Now some of you bring it back and shrink it down even smaller. Notice what happens as it gets stronger or weaker. Lift it up over your head. Pull it down around you like a big blanket. What happens now? What happens to the experience? Notice how every time you change as something as simple as the size and location of that object, the experience changes. The content, the story hasn't changed, but what your nervous system is giving you the experience of is it true or not true? Open your eyes, you can look up here, come out of the zone, right? True or not true, right? Okay. Now, if you're having trouble wrapping your head around that, right, then you probably need to do some other classes, right? But that's the basic understanding of what NLP is. NLP is how do we build it, how do we create it, how do we manage it, how do we build it, not just on the story level or on the content level, but on the structure level, because each of those qualities, size, shape, location, among all the other attributes you can name. Yes, they give us an attribute, like it's black and white or it's color, but they also tell our nervous system to play the experience this way, at this intensity level. So how many noticed when you made the picture bigger, the intensity of the experience went up? How many of you noticed when you made the picture smaller, the intensity of the experience went down? Some of you have the inverse of that. Some of you made the picture bigger and they've got more like diffused. Other people, it got more, when you made it smaller, it got stronger, it got concentrated. It doesn't matter what you experienced. What matters is how you experienced it. In other words, when I made something bigger, did it get stronger or did it get weaker? Right? Did you tell the system to make it stronger? Did you intend it for, or did it just happen automatically? Because each of those attributes in your subjective experience operates like a computer command to the autonomic nervous system. It tells the system how to give you the experience. Now, you took a picture that was this big, for some of you, and made it this big. Then you made it this big. Then you moved it up, and then you moved it around. So what's the implication there? Oh shit, he's making us think. What's the implication there?
We can change the feeling.
Boom. You can change it. It's on the sign. If you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. This is how you do it. Right? Now, the problem is a lot of times that we need to alter our state to do that. So the idea, the secret to it, is to just play pretend. That's the hack to everything. Just pretend. If you suddenly have a block to something, pretend you don't. If I didn't have the block, what would it be? It would be this. Okay. Right? I don't see a picture. Pretend you do. What would be the first thing you see? First impression. Boom. It's this. Perfect. Right? Which brings us to a fundamental. We're talking about unconscious processing. Or, as you'll become very, very adept at, unconscious communication. You, as an NLPUltra prac, need to be able to communicate with both levels at the same time. That's the goal. Okay? Your conscious mind pays attention to words, stories, metaphors. Your unconscious mind pays attention to structure, emotion, feelings. Okay? It's going somewhere with this. It'll come back in a minute. What was I talking about before I talked about unconscious processing? Seth? Come out of trance. I open the...
That we can change the feeling.
We can change it, yeah. We have to learn how to communicate on both levels. So one of the things that was important to understand is that all of these things are trance states. Your problem is not getting people into trance. Your problem is getting them out. Because most human beings move in and out of trance states so fluidly, so naturally, that they don't even know they've been in a trance state. Till 5 or 6 months, you're driving down there, all of a sudden you realize they missed the exit and stuff like that. We're trance machines. The question becomes, is the trance state that the person is in optimum for us getting our outcome? And if not, what state are they in? What state do I need them in to get the outcome? Whether it's their outcome or mine. In classic NLP, we would call that present state, desired state. Where are they? Where do we want them to be? How are we going to get them there? Right? Now, we've taken all the therapy training out of this class. Right? Can you use everything you're learning for therapy? 1,000%. I do it all the time. The problem is that it doesn't always generalize both ways. Most classical NLP trainings are going to give you a ton of therapeutic techniques. Then you go out to sell cars, or you're like, or see a hot person that you want to get to meet. How specifically? And you start meta-modeling them and get kicked in the nards or something like that, right? So, is anybody here not good at hypnosis? It's okay. I need to know. It's going to come out because you're going to be hypnotizing each other, right? I'm not picking. I don't want to single. I'm not singling about. I just need to know where you're at. How many of my diplomas do you have? A couple. All right. All right. I think this is, I'm going to give you your first drill, then we're going to take a 10-minute, 15-minute potty break. I want everybody to stand up.